what is, I would say, introduction to cloud computing. How does a cloud infra looks like, and we will go over the resources that we are going to cover in future for the Microsoft Azure. Okay. So quick introduction to cloud computing. So cloud computing, I would say, is a term used to describe the computing services which are provided by our data cloud providers. Okay, and all these things are basically provided by them through a data center. Okay, and we can access it over internet. Okay, so whatever things we have on our local, I would say, database, servers, hardware, software, anything. Okay, so all of these things can be accessed over internet. Okay, which are being provided by the cloud providers. Okay, so that's what at an Uber level we mean by cloud computing. Okay, so with cloud computing, business and individual can access and use computing resources on demand. Okay, without having to invest in and manage their own infra. Okay, so for example, if a particular company they are setting up their new office, okay, and they want some, I would say, servers. They want, I would say, a data lake storage. Okay, so they want to store some data. Okay, now they want, I would say, hard disk as well. Okay, to store more of their files. Okay, they want a computer which is basically having SSD. Okay, so they don't need to basically buy all these things. Okay, all these are directly provided by the cloud providers, and they can simply use it, or yeah, they can simply use it over internet. So that's what cloud computing means. Benefits of cloud computing: first of all, cost efficiency. You don't need to basically set up the complete thing on your physical office. Okay, you can use whatever you need and how much you need. Okay, so you only pay for what you're going to use. Okay, and if you're not using the services, whenever you don't require it, you are not paying for that. Okay, whenever you use it over a cloud. Okay, scalability: if you are, for example, using a system of which is having an SSD of 256 GB. Okay, now you have a requirement, you need to move to 1 TB. Okay, you can simply over a click move to that level of scalability. Okay, whenever you are on a cloud environment. And accessibility and reliability: it is easily accessible over internet. Okay, you can have it, each of the resources, over a click. And reliability: today, each and every cloud providers out there, whether it is Azure or Microsoft, they basically worked on the SLA of, I would say, 99.99%. Okay, so they claim like they are having a downtime of only 0.001%. Okay, so that's the amount of reliability we can get over whenever we are using some cloud systems. Okay. Who is using cloud computing? Organizations who are not sure about what level of data they are going to deal with in future. Okay, organizations who don't want to invest much in managing the things on their own, so they are using cloud computing. And also individuals who, like us, who basically need to learn these cloud computing technologies. Okay, which is in great demand nowadays. So we basically are using these cloud computing tools and technologies as of now. Okay. Now, a good interview question, that is, what do you mean by what are types of cloud computing out there? So three main things: infra as platform, and then platform as a services, and software as a services, known as Iaas, Paas, and Saas. Okay, so we'll have a quick brief of what all these things means. Okay, so infra as a services. So when a cloud provider is providing an infra as a services, infra means we are having a server. Okay, we are having hard disk, we are having SSD. Okay, they provide us all these things. Okay, and we build our programs or our basically platform over here. Okay, so for example, if a particular person wants to build I would say a website. Okay, so they need online storage. Okay, they need online servers. Okay, so they will use all these infra provided by the cloud providers. So over there, That's what means infra as a platform. Okay, where we are having all the infra provided. Okay. Then comes the platform as a service. So at platform as a service, we are basically getting everything. Okay, the infra and the platform where we want to code our data. Okay, so if you guys would have worked with IPython notebook. Okay, so an IPython notebook, the similar thing we have, I would say, in Google, which is known as Google Colab. So let me show you a quick example of how Google Colab looks like. Let me just give me a second. So if you use this Google Colab, or if you have ever heard of it, so Google Colab is basically similar to IPython notebook. Okay, just it provides everything over cloud. Okay, over cloud you're getting their Google infrastructure. Okay, and you're getting the complete IPython notebook as a platform to code. Okay, so I would say this is completely similar to IPython notebook. You can connect to their runtime. You can use their provided GPU as well over here. So the complete infra is provided by them, and this thing that you see over here is a platform where you can code. Okay, so this is known as a platform as a service. Okay, so that's what a platform as a service looks like. Now comes the software as a service. So we discuss infra, we discuss platform, and now software. So software as a service is a part where the coding or the complete application are already developed by the user. You just need to use it. Okay, like Google Documents. Okay, Salesforce, Microsoft Word. So all these things which are online. Okay, infra is of cloud provider, platform is of cloud provider, and the software is also of the cloud provider. Okay, you just need to go and use that. So that's what a software service looks like. Okay, so quickly going through this particular, let's say the table, okay, of what's the difference between all these things. So if anything is in on-premise, which is not on cloud, it is on your particular location, physical location. You need to manage everything: the application, data, runtime, the networking, servers, operating system. Everything needs to be managed by you. Okay, but if you are using infra as a platform, okay, this part, okay, infra as a platform. So you need to only manage the operating system, the coding part, the runtime, data, and applications. Okay, and all the part that is in red, that is the infra part, are being managed by the cloud providers. Okay, now comes the platform as a service. So in platform, they provide you the operating system, they provide you the runtime, they provide you the hardware. You just need to go and put their data and code over there. Okay. Now comes the SaaS, which is the most, I would say, the best thing of a cloud service. They provide everything pre-built to you. Okay. Everything is managed by the cloud service providers. Okay. You don't need to do anything over there. You just need to go and use it. Okay. So this is a good table. You can refer it for your future interviews. Okay. And basically go through it and what's the difference between Iaas, Paas, and Saas. Okay. Quickly going to see what are the examples of cloud services. Okay. So first of all, we have AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, the three big cloud providers out there. Okay. So they provide, I would say, the each and every services they provide you for your requirements. Okay. So compute, what does a compute means? Compute is a kind of computer that is on cloud, which is a virtual machine. Okay. So in compute, AWS, we are having EC2 instance. EC2 is nothing but a virtual machine. Okay. AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda is a function, I would say a coding platform where you write a set of code, but that runs over a cloud. Okay. Similarly, we are having Azure Virtual Machines, okay, and then Azure Functions, which is similar to AWS Lambda, where we code our data, which we code our application that runs over cloud, okay. And similar things we have in Google, we have Compute Machine and Google Cloud Functions, okay. Just keep in mind, like whenever if someone asks you what all things are present for a compute resource in AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. So that's what you need to answer. Okay. We have storage. So we have multiple options to store our data over cloud. Okay. So in AWS, we are having S3. S3 is a bucket kind of storage where it's a, I would say it's a data lake. Okay. Data lake is, we'll discuss what a data lake is. So at a Uber level, data lake is, as the name suggests, a big amount of storage where you can store any kind of data. Okay, whether it is coming from website, whether it is coming from your IoT device, whether it is coming from like any sources. Okay, Google Analytics. So any kind of data can be stored over, I would say, cloud. This S3. Okay, the Google Cloud. There's some issue with my mouse. Okay. Keep moving to the next part, that is networking. So we learned about storage things. Now moving forward to the database thing. So in the database thing, we basically see what all database services we have in our cloud providers. Okay. So first of all, we have the SQL database service over cloud. We have the relational databases. Okay. We have DynamoDB. We have Redshift. So all these things are basically present in AWS. Okay. We have SQL database. So the database that we are using on our local system. Okay. So just imagine the same system over cloud, like the servers are of Microsoft, the SQL database are of Microsoft. You are just storing your data and querying it over there. Okay. So that's what a cloud database looks like. Okay. So yeah, we have RDS in database. We have Redshift in AWS, Azure SQL Database, Azure Database for Postgres in AWS. Similar Google Cloud SQL and Google Cloud File Store. Okay, so we are going to discuss all those things, but giving you a brief. So these are the services that are available in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Okay. Next is networking. So in networking, just read these names. We are not going to use it much because these are more of an administrative part. But just giving you a brief if you want to learn about them yourself. Okay, these are the services, networking services available by AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Okay, moving forward to application services, just like that, there are a lot of big softwares like. Talk about the Amazon, I would say Prime Video. Okay, so they uses simple view services. Okay, if we talk about Azure Data Factory, okay, the Azure Cloud tool, okay, they uses Azure App Services, Azure Event Grid to manage the request. Okay, so these are the different things that are available by for the application services by different cloud providers. Okay. Then what does a cloud infra basically looks like? Okay, as we just discussed, cloud infra refers to a physical hardware and software components that are used to deliver cloud computing services. Okay, so if, for example, I want a SQL database over a cloud. Okay, so we want a particular computer. Okay, which is known as a server. Okay, as of now, if I'm using this particular SQL on my system, then my system is a server. Okay, so that server will be provided by the cloud provider. And inside that, if you are having a database, so that is known as a cloud database. Okay, so in my local system, this particular server is my local server, and the skill DB, the database that you see, is my local database. Okay. Similarly, you can have the cloud database and cloud server provisioned by either Azure or AWS, and you can use the benefit of, I would say, the cloud database over using the Azure or AWS or Google Cloud. Okay, so what's the benefit of that? Benefit is each and everything like networking, storage, servers. These are managed by Azure. You don't need to think about what happens if my data gets huge. Where would I get the storage from? You can simply go and click over the required requirements. Okay, and the cloud provider will get that done for you. Okay. So what are types of cloud infrastructure? So there are public cloud, there is private cloud, and there is a hybrid cloud. Okay. So what does a public, private, and hybrid cloud means? Okay. So if, for example, there is a particular, I would say, uh, cloud resources. Okay. So there's a cloud resources, which means there is a particular rack. Okay. And this rack, you're having different servers, server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4, server 5. Okay. So if you will ever get a chance to see a data center, okay, the servers are stored in form of rack. They are not like a laptop or a particular CPU. Okay, they are stored in a form of rack, and these are basically a shared resources. Okay, so for example, in server one there are two disks. Okay, so disk one and disk two. There is a great probability like the disk one is used by some client one, and disk two is used by some client two. Okay, so you see, this is how the resource is being shared over cloud. Okay, but for example, you are owning a bank and you don't want your database over a resource that are being shared by other clients as well. Okay, so because there are risk of loss of information, the private information. Okay, so that's why there's something known as public cloud. What happens in a public cloud? There's a complete rack. Okay, for example, if they're having a rack 1, 2, 3, 4 servers. So that is completely owned by client one. Okay, so that's what a public cloud looks like. Okay, sorry, I'm really sorry. That's what a private cloud looks like. Okay, where a complete rack is owned by a particular client. That's what a private cloud looks like. Okay, and the vice versa, public cloud, as I discussed previously, in public cloud, the complete resources are being shared by the different clients. Okay, so that's the difference between a public cloud and a private cloud. And hybrid cloud, in hybrid cloud, it's as the name suggests, it's a combination of private and public. That is not used much. Okay, but the most that are used out there are public cloud. So if you are using a SQL database, there are high chances that it is being hosted on a server that is being shared to other clients as well. Okay, so yeah, that's the difference between public cloud, private cloud, and a hybrid cloud. Okay, so moving forward to the benefits of on-premise versus cloud. Okay, so a very good question that is being asked in an interview. So this is a table that you need to go through. Okay, and this is what a difference between on-premise versus cloud looks like. Okay, so the first of all, ownership. The ownership, sorry for that. The ownership in an on-premise is of a company. For example, if I own a company, I need to have the complete ownership. If anything goes off, I need to own that. And in cloud provider, it is being used owned by the cloud providers. Okay, they need to manage anything. Okay, I need to, if everything is on-premise, I need to check for deployment, the maintenance, scalability, even the cost. Okay, but on cloud computing part, everything is being managed by our cloud provider. Okay, so that's a benefit of using a cloud over an on-premise. So moving ahead to introduction to Microsoft Azure. So this is what we are here for. So what is Microsoft Azure? So Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing platform which is provided by or managed by Microsoft. Okay. So all the resources that we use in Azure, they are basically handled by Microsoft. Okay. Everything is handled by Microsoft over here. And Azure is the leading cloud platform used by organization in healthcare, finance, and education. Okay. So if we talk about anything, any product-based company. Okay. For example, if we talk about, I would say Dream 11. If you talk about, I would say Uber. Okay. So all these things are mostly built on AWS, okay, because AWS is cheap in terms of the resources that they provide, okay. But when it comes to data, okay, but when it comes to analytics, there comes the role of Azure, because Azure provides the resources that are more user friendly, okay, because whenever you work with data or analytics, you don't need to, I would say, manage more things on your own. You need a UI based interface where you can basically uh, focus on coding part more than managing things. Okay, so that's a benefit of using Microsoft Azure. Okay, so let me go through an Azure portal, okay, and show you how does the Azure looks like. Okay, what are the components in an Azure, Microsoft Azure. Okay, so to open a particular Azure portal, you need to have an Azure subscription. Okay, to have an Azure subscription, you need to have a credit card. Okay, so for credit card, you can buy, if you have a credit card, you can simply get a 1 year of free trial. Okay, I will share a document with you guys using which you can create a free Azure account. Okay, if you're a student, you can use your college email ID to create a free account. Okay, so I would highly recommend to create a free account by tomorrow, so that when we come tomorrow, we can perform each and everything live. Okay, you can open this Azure portal and perform each and everything with me live. Okay, so giving you a brief, how does a Azure portal looks like? So in a Azure portal, there are hierarchy. Okay, at the top we have something called subscription. Okay, so in a subscription, we are having the complete resources that are being managed. Okay. So for example, we are having a storage account, we are having SQL databases, we are having a virtual machine. So all the billing, everything is done inside one subscription. Okay. Now inside a subscription, we are having something called resource group. Okay. So for example, you are having one subscription, and inside that you want to divide your resources into different platforms. Okay, so resource group first will have maybe for dev. Okay, resource group two will maybe for production. Okay, so if any resource that is created under RG resource group production, that will be a production environment. If anything is created under resource group development, that will be for development environment. Okay, so that makes it easier for us to, I would say, analyze the cost or analyze the performance of each resources. Okay, so for example, if we create everything inside one resources, okay, it's really hard for us to, I would say, manage or see how much our development environment is costing us, how much our production environment is costing us. Okay, so that's why it's a good practice to divide it inside two different resources group. Okay, so yeah, so that's what a subscription is, and subscription and resource group is. Okay. Yep. So as we discussed, this is our Azure portal. Okay. In an Azure portal, you can view your subscription as over here. Okay. So I have the subscription pay as you go, where I've added my credit card, and as soon as I have something created or provision, it will be charged on that basis. Okay. In Azure portal, you can search for any resource over here. Okay, so we over here we have SQL databases, we can have data factories, function app. Okay, if you're not sure what you need to create or what you're looking for, you can simply go to create resources. Okay, and in create resources, you can see there's a vast amount of tools and services which are provided by Azure. Okay, we have it for analytics, we have for blockchain, compute, containers, databases, DevOps. So everything that you can think of from end to end, from like I would say testing till development till coding. Okay, all these resources are provided by Azure to us. Okay, and out of them, few of us we will be discussing in our this course. Okay. So, giving you a brief of what all things are present in Azure. Okay. So first of all, Azure Compute. Okay. So in Azure Compute, we are having what virtual machines. Okay. So yeah. So in Azure Compute is a component of Azure platform that provides virtual machines, containers, and serverless computing. Okay. So if you want to provision a virtual machine, okay, and in a virtual machine, you are going to basically create some application or create some or store some data. Okay. So that basically comes under Azure Compute. Okay. So in Azure Compute, they provide you hard disk or SSD. Okay. They provide you with networking things. Okay. So all these things are provided in Azure Compute, using which you can provision a virtual machine. Okay. So next is, yeah, as I told, virtual machines. So in virtual machines, they are basically uh, a computer that is on cloud. Okay, which is having cloud security, which is billed per minute. So the billing of Azure virtual machine is in a way based on your resource, based on your usage. Okay. For example, you are using only for 2 hours a day. Okay. So it will build based on that. Okay. Whenever you don't need it, you can simply go and turn that off. Okay. So benefit of using virtual machine over cloud is the elasticity. Okay. Of how easily you can scale up your system. Okay, you can have nowhere from one core of machine to 128 core, ranging from 2 GB of memory to 3.5 TB of memory. Just imagine a system having 3.5 TB of memory. Okay, you can't easily have that hardware on your house or on your local office. Okay, managing a 3.5 TB memory of RAM of machine, that is going to take a lot of cooling, that is going to take a lot of management. Okay, but whenever you use something on cloud, it is simply a click away. Okay, if you want to provision just, I would say, 3.5 TB memory of virtual machine, you click it and you just pay for it and you will get that particular amount of compute. Okay, so yeah, that's what a virtual machine comes in handy to us. Then we have Azure Storage. Okay, so in Azure Storage, we are having multiple kind of features. Okay, we are having Azure Blob Storage, File Storage, Disk Storage. Okay, the most used is the I would say the Blob Storage. Blob Storage is basically a data lake storage where we can store any kind of data. As we discussed, it can have structured data, unstructured data. So what is structured data and unstructured data, already discussed. So unstructured data is what that is not having any schema. For example, JSON file. Okay, for example, XML file. Okay, audio, video. Okay, so all these things are basically the unstructured data. Okay, and what is structured data, which is in a tabular format. Okay, so these are structured data. All these things can be stored in blob storage. Okay, uh, you can't store a video in database, you can't store an audio in database. Obviously you can store their byte codes, but you can't store them in actual format. So that's where a blob storage comes in. Then we have something called file storage. Okay, so if you want to share something over network, okay, so for that you can store it over file storage. So in Windows we store, for example, in C drive, D drive, E drive. Okay, so that's what a disk storage looks like. Okay, so all these things are provided by Azure over cloud. Okay, then we have Azure Data Lake Storage. So Azure Data Lake Storage is a service provided by Azure, okay, which is basically, I would say, a blob storage, but in a more enhanced way. Okay, so what does a data lake storage looks like? So it's a cloud-based storage which is used for analytical purpose as well. Okay, so we have discussed what a blob storage is. It is simply used to store a lot of structured and unstructured data. Okay, but when we come to a place where we want to query those data, okay, over there data lake storage comes in handy. Okay, so for example, we are having a lot of different sources coming in. Okay, and we want to store them at a single place. For example, we store it in our blob storage. Now we want to query data inside these blob storage using, I would say, an API service or directly using a database. Okay, so you can simply query it. So this querying helps in when we store all these data in data lake storage. Okay, so Azure Data Lake Storage is a service which is based on a blob storage. Only difference is we can directly query data from there in more efficient manner. Okay, so for example, we are working on a machine learning model. Okay, and machine learning model is being trained over a big virtual machine. Okay, now I want to feed data in this virtual machine from a source which from where we can easily fetch data. Okay, so that's where a data lake storage comes in. Okay, we can use or feed the data directly from database, but a data lake storage is more faster. It is way faster than any kind of storage available. Okay, so that's the difference between blob storage and I would say data lake storage. Okay. Another feature of Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, okay, is its low cost storage. It is the cheapest storage that is available out there. Okay, scalability. The best thing is it provides you with unrestricted amount of storage. Okay, you can store whatever amount of data you want. Okay, you can store it in data lake storage. Okay, high performance. So high performance as I told you, it is very efficient to store data and query data from data lake storage. Why? Because blobs Azure Data Lake Storage is based on Hadoop architecture. Okay, a key point to note: it is based on Hadoop architecture, which means it, it is based on parallel processing. Okay, which means data is not stored at one place. Data is stored on multiple nodes. Okay, so if we have this ADLS, which is Azure Data Lake Storage, we are storing data at multiple nodes, maybe node 1, node 2, node 3. Okay, and all these things are being managed by Azure itself. Okay, so these data are getting partitioned and being stored in different nodes. Okay, which helps you get the required scalability because each node is having a restrictive amount of storage. Okay, but we combine n number of nodes, you can use the power of each and every node over there. Okay, so that's why Azure Data Lake Storage is so efficient in providing us the scalability and high performance because it is based on parallel processing. Okay, and another benefit is integration with Azure services. Azure Data Lake Storage is easily accessible using our Databricks, Power BI, Synapse, or any other tool of Azure. Okay, that's why it is so easy and handy to use. Okay, and security, obviously, because it is being managed by Azure, so security is there. Okay, next we have again discussing what do we mean by data lake. Okay, frequently asked interview question. Okay, so a data lake is a centralized repository that allows organization to store data coming from anywhere at any scale. Okay, so a data lake is designed to support big data analytics, machine learning, and other advanced data processing techniques. Okay, if we store data in a file system or a database, then this kind of scalability is not possible. Okay, but it is possible in a data lake. Okay, already explained, it is based on a Hadoop distributed file system, HDFS system. Okay, so that's why it is highly scalable and high in performance. Okay, so that's what you mean by a data lake. Azure Databases already discussed. It's a platform provided by Azure. They provide you a server. They provide you a database. You simply need to go query data over there and store data over there. Okay, just like we query the data in our local server. Okay, the same way. So as of now, this is a local host. Okay, the same way when we provision Azure SQL database, we get the database URL, the server URL. We can directly connect to it and query it. We will see this live tomorrow when we will discuss Azure database and data lake storage in more depth. Okay. So benefits of Azure databases, basically elastic and scale performance, business continuity, and familiar and self-managed. Okay, familiar because if you have worked with any Microsoft SQL Server on your local system, the cloud SQL Server is also similar. Okay, business continuity because The cloud provider is very reliable. As I said, it provides a 99.99% of SLA, okay, the downtime, okay, and elastic because it is highly scalable. You can move from 1 GB of memory till 10 GB or 20 GB of memory, okay, from 500 GB of storage till 1 TB of storage within seconds, okay. So that's what scalability and elastic means, okay. Then comes the Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Again, a good big concept that we are going to discuss in this Azure module. Okay, so Azure SQL Data Warehouse is just like Azure SQL Database. Only difference is it is designed for huge data, okay, and huge query performance. Okay, so if we talk about SQL database, it is 1 TB or 2 TB, but when we talk about SQL data warehouse, it is petabytes of data. Okay, so whenever we talk about big data, that is stored in SQL data warehouse. Okay, it is designed to, as written over here, it's designed to support your smallest to largest data storage. Okay, and it is designed to handle your queries 100x faster. Okay, so that's what a data warehouse means. Okay, so it is similar to a SQL database. Only difference is it is designed for multiple parallel processing. Okay, and storing a huge amount of data. Okay. Yep. So benefits, what are benefits is basically highly scalable. Okay. You can scale up to petabytes of data, cost effective, okay, fast performance. Okay. So it is MPP architecture, which means it is a massively parallel processing. MPP means massively parallel processing that allows for high scalability and performance. Okay. Why it is so much highly available and highly good in performance? Because of the data partition and the way it stores data. As we talk about how ADLS stores data, the same way data warehouse stores data. Okay, it stores in multiple different nodes. Okay, it is having multiple different nodes and it stores data over there. Okay, and whenever I send a query, so query runs on each of the different nodes. Okay, and when the output of each nodes are returned, they are merged in a single output and then provided to the user. Okay, so that's how they achieve the multiple parallel processing, because the compute is being done not on a single system, it is being done on a multiple system. Okay, next is uh, coming to how data warehouse looks like. Okay, we have a data source. Okay, data source means we are having data coming from our multiple different sources like Drive, we have CSV, we might have coming from database, we have clickstream data, we have our Salesforce data. Okay, so using all these sources, we have something known as smart connectors, using which we ingest the data to our system. Okay, in our case, that will be Azure Data Factory, which we will learn in coming modules. Okay, so these smart connectors copy data from the source, okay, and dump it to our data warehouse, okay, where we can store our n number of data. Okay, we can process that data based on business logic, we can make changes on them, and then you can use the same data warehouse to consume data in whatever form you want. If you want to use it in a live dashboard, if you want to use in a website, okay, if you want to use for, I would say, next step, like if you want to use for machine learning, okay, you can use it in any form once data is present in your data warehouse. Okay, so this is what a Uber level complete end-to-end ETL architecture looks like. So E means extraction, which is done from a source. T means transformation, which is happening in between where you transform your data, and then loading. Loading means loading data to the required, I would say, required dashboard or whatever destination you want. Okay. Coming to the last slide, Azure Devops. Okay, whenever you work with some company or organization, you would have heard, you will come across something known as CI/CD. Okay, which is continuous integration and continuous development. Okay, So Azure Devops is a project management platform where you can commit your code just like GitHub. You can I would say make changes in your code directly. Okay. You can get approval of codes over there for changes. You can deploy changes to your server or application using Azure DevOps. Okay. So that's where the Azure DevOps helps us. Okay. So Azure DevOps is basically helping us in streamline development. Okay. We can easily check in our code. We can make changes. We can do the planning of our project. Okay. It helps in automation as in we can directly, for example, if you have a code in your data factory and you want to change it, okay, you can simply update the code in your DevOps, okay, and there are automatic pipelines which will simply deploy the new code to the I would say the data factory. Okay, so if an interview, if anyone asks you if you know about any CI/CD tool, then you can say them yes, you're aware of Azure DevOps, okay, and the benefits of that. Okay, so with that, we will come to the end of the introduction of Azure. Okay, so over here we have learned about, I would say, Azure Database, Azure Storage, DevOps, Data Warehouse. Okay, so these are the basic things that are present in Azure that we are going to learn further in the coming in our coming sessions. Okay, so yeah, it's 11:30. Let's end this session over here. If you have any questions, please ping on Q&A. Okay. If you have any doubt, please reach out to me directly. I will share this recording in the group once that is available. Okay. And do reach out to me over WhatsApp directly over my personal number if you have any suggestion or if you have any doubt. Okay. Oh yeah. Any questions? You should have your hands up.
Yes, Abhishek.
Yeah.
So,
So,
as you
yeah, what's the
said,
question?
am I audible?
Sorry?
Am I audible? No?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So, you told the difference between Azure Blob and Azure Data Lake, right?
Yes.
So, in Data Lake, you said if you want to train some machine learning models, we can do that in the Data Lake. Cannot it be done in Azure Blob?
Mm-hmm. Sorry,
What is the
just give
main
me a
difference
second. Your voice
between?
is breaking.
What is the main
Can you
difference
repeat it
between?
again?
What is the main difference between Blob and Data Lake?
Hello.
Abhishek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So he's
so
asking the difference between blob and data lake.
yes.
So again, explaining. So Azure Blob is basically the base of how data are stored in data lake storage. Okay. So Azure Data Lake ADLS is a platform which is built. Blob is a way how data is stored, how a large amount of data is stored in a parallel way, okay, on different nodes, okay. And the ADLS data lake services are the service of Azure, which is built over blob storage, okay, over which you can not only store a data, but also query it in more efficient manner. Okay, is it clear?
Yeah, okay. And then what is the difference between Azure Data Lake Storage and Azure SQL Data Warehouse?
Difference between Azure data lake storage and
Azure SQL Data Warehouse.
okay. So as I told, Azure SQL ADLS. Sorry, you're asking about Azure Data Lake Storage or Azure SQL Database?
ADLS and Azure SQL Data Warehouse difference.
Okay, so ADLS is a place where you can store any kind of data. Okay, structured and unstructured data in a huge amount. Okay, and Azure SQL Data Warehouse is only a place where you can store only the structured data, just as SQL database. Okay, So SQL Data Warehouse is similar to SQL Database, but you can store a large amount of data, but only structured data. Okay, and you can query that data using SQL queries. Okay, just like we do in SQL Database, you can do the similar. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any questions? Anything else? You can simply reach out to me. Okay, do let me know if you have any other question. I will share the recordings for you soon. And if you have any suggestion, do let me know as well. Okay. So the would stop the recording over here, and the session is officially over. And thank you guys for joining the session again, giving your time. Okay, we will meet tomorrow. Okay, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.